Hey guys, happy holidays. So a couple months ago I released my add-on that I use for tracking my priorities. It's called Enhancement Technique, and it's down here at the bottom. When I made that video, I promised that if I got a certain number of downloads, I would work on the add-on. As you guys who use it know, the only way to configure it right now is to modify the Lua script, which is a little bit lame. So, for the holiday season, I have decided to update the add-on. So there are a couple features that hopefully you guys will like, and I'm going to go through them now. Alright, so first off, there's been a feature that has actually been broken since Dragon Soul, but it's been in the add-on. It just broke during Mists, and I never bothered fixing it, and that is this. Let me show you. You start combat, you walk away. You'll notice this text here that says not in melee range. It warns you if you cannot auto-attack. As soon as I get within auto-attack range, it lets me attack again. And the little notification goes away. So, the reason this broke, actually, is because I was using Storm Strike as the method to test whether or not you were in melee range. So, if you can use Storm Strike, then you can attack. But apparently, because of Ascendance, Storm Strike is now no longer a good metric, and it always tells you that it's available even when it's not. So, now I just switched to Primal Strike, and now it works again. So isn't that fantastic? Okay. The next feature I added is an Unleashed Fury monitor. So, if you can see, it's a little bit faint and small, but there is an option next to my Maelstrom weapon stacks. It's an icon, and what it does is it shows you Unleashed Fury. Right now, the Unleashed Fury icon is very dim. I'm going to put Unleashed Fury on this target dummy right here, and there we go. Now you notice the icon changed to a lightning bolt. What this tells you is that if I cast lightning bolt right now, it will get the bonus from the 30% from Unleashed Fury. So let's try that again as soon as Unleashed Fury is up. I cast it. It's telling me I can still cast another lightning bolt and get the bonus. You can still cast one and get the bonus. Now I can't. It's no longer a lightning bolt, it's an Unleashed Fury icon, and now Unleashed Fury is no longer on the boss, or the target rather, and so the icon has become dimmed. So what this does is it helps you min-max your lightning bolts a little bit more, because one of the ways you can really crank out extra numbers is by maximizing the amount of lightning bolts you get while that 30% bonus is active. So essentially the choice you need to make is, depending on your priority list as it currently is, if you have like an Earth Shock, say in like 2 seconds, and that's your next action to use, and you have 2 stacks of Maelstrom and you have Unleashed Fury up, it's actually makes sense to hard cast a lightning bolt at only 2 stacks of Maelstrom if you're going to get the 30% bonus. So it's a nice little feature. Isn't that great? Alright, but the major feature that I added this time around is this. I created some user interface options for this add-on, so I'm going to go through what they do. First off, locking the frame. Not terribly important, but once in a while I have accidentally moved my frame during combat, so, you know, this will prevent that from happening. So the first option that I added was the ability to toggle whether or not you hide the bar in or out of combat. So if I uncheck this, you'll notice that even though I'm not in combat, the bar is still visible. I did this because there are a lot of people who probably want to see it all the time. Why, I'm not sure, but, you know, hey, there it is. Also, this option is set by default, so I had a couple of people send me messages saying that the add-on wasn't working because they installed it and they didn't see anything, and they assumed that it would just appear on the screen. So now by default, when you first install the add-on, it should show you this, the bar. And if you want to show it or hide it when it's out of combat, then make sure you check this box. So point being, when you install the add-on for the first time, you should actually see it this time. So I also added an option to choose the modifier to use. So what this does actually is, so right now I'm not in combat, the bar is hidden. If I hold down my control key, which also shows this action bar, which is just a dominoes thing, but if I hold down the control key, I see my add-on, and when I let go of it, it disappears. So your options are Control, Shift, and Alt, and you can also specify none, which, you know, is fine. I also added a scaling factor, so let's go ahead and set that. You'll see that it appears, and we'll use the scaling factor and set this. Notice it's moves in kind of a weird way. I apologize, but I'm really way too lazy to make that work correctly. So now you can see the entire UI, including the icon, the little lightning bolt icon. Everything is much larger. So if you don't like my sizing, you can change it. I'm going to set it back to 100% here. Alright. There we go. Alright. Put this back where it belongs. The other feature that's not listed in the options but does actually exist, when you move your bar around, the position will be remembered. So you can put it anywhere on your screen, you can log out, and when you come back in, it will be in the correct spot that you left it at. So, nice feature. It's been a big request, so there you go. The last thing that, and I should say the major feature this time around is that previously, let me cancel out of this for a second. Previously, you'll notice these little tooltips on the abilities, and I call these in the add-on keybind hints. If you've used the add-on before, you know that they were hard-coded, and they were hard-coded to my bindings. So obviously, if you wanted to customize this add-on, the first thing you'd have to do is crack open the Lua file, modify those key strings. It's just a pain in the ass, especially if you're a non-programmer. So I updated the add-on so that now, in addition to being awesome, the keybind hints are picked up dynamically based on your actual bindings. So this is what this shows you is a preview of what your bindings are. And I decided to show you pretty much every ability enhancement shamans need. And this is a pretty staggering toolkit. These are all the binds that I need just to raid. Okay, so I didn't include 100% of the stuff that I should, like for example potions and your trinkets and your racials. I do have racial for blood rage. If you happen to be a Tauren, this will be war stomp instead, but that's the only, I didn't set up racials for any other race because I just don't care. You can bind those manually yourself if you want. But in addition to actually showing you what these are, let me use one that's kind of not important. You can also click one of these icons and then press a keybind, and it will show you, it will update the keybind for you. So essentially what I'm doing here is allowing you to bind all your abilities just from here. One thing I want to point out is that, and this is noted in the UI itself, but you want to make sure that you do not bind Storm Strike, Lava Lash. For me, I used 1 through 4, as you can see. Storm Strike is 1, Lightning Bolt is 2, Lava Lash is 3, and Unleash Elements is 4. If you bind these using this add-on, so in other words, if I were to click Storm Strike and press 1 right now, what it would do is it would bind Storm Strike to the key 1. This add-on here is binding abilities, okay, and that's really important to an important distinction because when you get into a vehicle, it uses your action slot bindings. So if you have an action bar number 1, and its keys are bound 1, 2, 3, 4. If you override these here in this add-on, what you're going to do is you're going to change the binding so that instead of binding action slot number 1 to your 1 key, you're going to end up binding Storm Strike to your 1 key. And this becomes a problem when you get into vehicles because suddenly your bindings don't work anymore. So I strongly recommend keeping your whatever action bars 1 through 4 that you currently have bound, do not bind them using this user interface. You'll notice that in this UI, I'm showing you 1, and then I say action slot 1. I can detect that Storm Strike is in your action slot number 1. So in my case, let me show you this really quick. In my case, action slot 1 is this guy over here. It's a Domino's bar, and you can sort of see the text is small, but you can see that this is Storm Strike. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and actually the add-on's a little bit even more sophisticated than that because my number 1 is actually a macro. So let me show you this really quick. It's actually this macro, Storm Strike. What it does is it automatically toggles auto attack if it's not on. It tells my pets to attack, which was more relevant when you had ghost wolves that were actually pets. These days, this really doesn't do anything. It casts Storm Strike, and it also clears my UI frame so that if I spam my 1 key, you'll notice I'm spamming it right now, and you're not seeing errors telling me I'm not in range because I'm clearing. Actually, I'm spamming 1 because I'm editing my macro like a freaking retard. All right, let me exit this really quick. Now I can spam it. See, you can see it flash a little bit if you're careful, but there's no errors showing me that I'm out of range because I'm clearing the error frame. But my add-on is capable of figuring out that even though action slot 1 has a macro in it, the macro casts Storm Strike, and therefore I pick up that Storm Strike is bound to your 1 key. So therefore, when I use my add-on, you will see that Storm Strike has the correct tooltip or keyboard hint for the action key number 1. So what this means is that in order to use this add-on, you should now no longer need to modify any Lua files. I haven't tested this hyper thoroughly. I've made most of these changes a couple days ago, and I have rated at least 1 time with all the changes in place. So therefore, I know it should work in combat. I will recommend, for the time being, because this is not super tested, make sure that you run during raiding with this checkbox unchecked, right? Because if I have a Lua error somewhere and it's going to interfere with your raiding, I really don't want to be responsible for that. So anyway, I want you to make sure that you don't get screwed. But I haven't seen any Lua errors in combat, so it should be okay. Fix my combat thing here. Alright, so that is update. I've also updated it for version 5.1, so you should no longer have to force the checkbox to load out-of-date add-ons. My next benchmark is going to be 5,000 users. So if 5,000 people download this add-on, I will create another set of UI options. And currently, what I'm thinking about doing for the next version is building in these icons that you see up here right above my my bar here. These are all little power auras, and I think they're kind of useful, and I kind of feel like maybe I ought to bake those into the UI. I'll create them as icons about as big as they are, and I'll bind them to the bar itself so that you will see them the same way that I do. And I will create a UI option for checking whether or not you want them to be displayed. I'll give you checkboxes for them, I think. Truthfully, I'm not sure I will, because there's really no good reason not to show individual ones. I'll probably create one checkbox to show all or hide all, because some people might be using something like Need to Know, which is a different method of tracking your cooldowns for trinkets and things. So I'll make one checkbox probably that lets you hide or show all of these little options here, and including Ascendance, which I'll probably move up to here. I put it right next to my bars because it's super important. So I got also a couple of questions over the last couple months about this add-on, things like, is this priority system accurate? And the answer is yes. The way I determine what ability to use is pretty sophisticated, but it ultimately follows the standard, I shouldn't say the standard, but the theory-crafted min-max priority list that we have as Enhancement Shamans. The only thing that this add-on will not do for you, and I might add that in the next version, is it does not ever tell you to cast Lightning Bolt at any other time other than 5 stacks. If you want to hard cast Lightning Bolt, that is a call that you have to make. And the reason that I did that is because it's very difficult and it's also very situational. And I want to make sure the add-on always shows you the most damaging abilities. So in other words, I don't want the add-on to sit there with Lightning Bolt as the highest priority when you're sitting at 3 Maelstrom stacks, when you also have Lava Lash, Storm Strike, and other things up. Because in that situation, when you have 3 stacks of Maelstrom, you really ought to be casting Storm Strike. So in order for me to show that, the hard cast at 3 option, what I would need to do is I would need to check all of your other abilities, basically. And I'd have to say, okay, the only thing it would take priority over would be like Earth Shock, and that would just be way too much trouble. So I might add an option for letting you basically choose how many Maelstrom stacks you want me to show you this Lightning Bolt has, but I probably won't ever do that simply because I just don't think it's a good idea. But we'll see. If you have a feature request, if you have something you want to see that's specifically related to this add-on, please go ahead and ask me. I've gotten requests like saying things like, oh, can you make one of these 4, and then like, they name a class, like, oh, for my Feral Druid, or, oh, can you make me one for Elemental, and things like that. And, the answer is no. Creating these add-ons is incredibly time-consuming. I'm a professional software developer by day, and, I have many, many years of experience doing it, and I'm pretty good at it. But trying to develop WoW add-ons is incredibly excruciating because there is no good debugging. It's very difficult to figure out why something is not showing up if something doesn't. The only way to really develop a WoW add-on and debug it is to put print statements in your code, and it's incredibly time-consuming. So basically, what you see is what you get. But if you have a feature request that is decent that I hadn't thought about, I will certainly take into consideration and possibly bake it into the next version. So anyway, guys, as I said, 5,000 users. The best way to get that number up is to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. I really don't advertise this add-on in any other place. I've never bothered to plug it on forums or anything like that. If you want to, you can be my guest, but I'm not going to plug my own add-on because, frankly, I think that's lame. If people like it, they like it. But if you like this video and subscribe to it, then YouTube will put it higher up in the search results, so people will be able to find the videos, see the add-on in action, and decide maybe they want to download it. So 5,000 users, 5,000 downloads, I guess I should say. 5,000 downloads and you'll get the next version. Anyway, happy holidays. I hope you guys enjoy it, and as always, if you have any problems, best way to contact me is by messaging me here on this channel on YouTube.